Harihi Om Sadashivasamarambham Śaṅkarācārya Madhyamam Asmadācārya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Mūkam Karoti Vācālam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Krupatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. Om Sishyatma Samarpan Karpanya Dosho Upahata Swabhavaha Prichhami Tvam Dharma Sammuda Chetaha Yashreyasyan Nishchitam Bruhi Tanme Shishyasteham Shadhimam Tvam Prapannam. Om. We were in the 66th Shloka of Shrimad Bhagavad Gita in the chapter number 2. The Shloka goes like this. Nasti buddhirayuktasya nachayuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayata shantihi ashantasya kuta sukham. In this Shloka, we saw that Bhagwan was telling the importance of how we have to follow and enable ourselves. Use of Ayuktasya twice was very key, and we did a very deep analysis on that. Today, we will continue from the Bhāṣyam, which is where we had left during the last week. So Acharya starts by telling what this is. There does not exist wisdom towards discerning the true nature of the self to those who are not disciplined, as in for those who lack inner integration. They also cannot have contemplative engagement, and such a person cannot meditate or stay absorbed in self-knowledge. Pretty interesting way that he had put it. A very, very key differentiator that he adds. The only thing is we take it a little further beyond the self-knowledge, Atmajnan. We look at it from both the Samanya Jnan as well as the Atmajnan. We were trying to analyze it from both those point of view. But the important aspect is we being able to acquire the knowledge through Shravanam and ensure that it gets well settled into us. That getting well settled into us is by contemplating through mananam, as well as by assimilating and integrating that bits of information that you got to form a whole concept. That is called as bhāvanā. And he says that unless you are able to put it together, in other words, in terms of, say, Atmajnan, we just say Aham Brahmasmi. Okay, I am Brahman. Now you have got this information. So how is it that I am Brahman? There are Upanishads that talk of Neti, right? There are in Bhagavad Gita itself, it is talking in terms of the Swarup of Atma itself, like what we saw in the early Atma definition. What is not Anatma is Atma. So how to identify what is Anatma? Unless you put all these concepts together and understand it as a whole, you will receive an information. You will not gain the knowledge. Unless that assimilation of that information is done completely, a person cannot meditate or stay absorbed in self-knowledge, is the way that Acharya has introduced. Further, he says, without the deep contemplation, peace cannot arise. Nacha bhavayatah shantihi. Then ashantasya kuta sukham. Very straightforward place that it comes in here. And we see it as an important message. Firmness that prevents one from going astray towards the sensory object is essential to develop this ability to realize the true nature of self. We will talk about the true nature of self later too, but Think of it like this. I am, say, a copper wire, which means I can conduct electricity. Now, if I want to become like a wood, will it work? It will not. Even if in case you are going to shape me like a wood or tree, I will still conduct electricity. Understanding that self is very, very important, even for a normal transactional engagement. Atmajnan, which is even more subtler, you can only imagine how important it is for that assimilation to take place. True happiness lies in freedom from craving, not in chasing the objects. That craving is sorrow, it is not joy. So long as the desire is present, not even a trace of real happiness is possible. And that is the way that Acharya has emphasized. Na trishnayam satyam sukhasya gandhamatre api. Right? Even for a little bit. Upapadyate ityartah. So he is taken that particular ashantasya kuta sukham as such an important characteristic. Going into the 67th shloka, Acharya introduces it here. Ayuktasya kasmad buddhihi na asti iti uchyate. We will now proceed to know why the knowledge of self is absent in those who are ayuktaha. Right? So this gives further clarification and emphasis, which is what the next shloka is all about. Going into the 67th shloka, Indriyanam hi charatam yanmanonu vidhiyate tadasya harati prajnam vayurnavamivambasi. Going word by word, Indriyanam hi charatam. Indriyanam, the sense organs. He is certainly, indeed, charatam, as they keep moving. Yan manonu vidhiyate can be broken into yat. The yan is actually yat, with which manaha is the mind, anuvidhiyate. The anu is an important prefix. We have spoken about it a lot of time. Lakshmana anugacchati. He follows Ram and goes. Anu means following, vidhiyate is engaged. What is vidhiyate? Following the sense organs, the mind gets engaged. Tadasya, tat asya, for of his, harati is taken away, snatched away, captured. What? The prajna, the intelligence. And once that intelligence has been taken away, Vayur navam iva ambasi. Vayuhu is air. Navam, now the one that we generally use, a boat, iva, like, similar to. The way that an uncontrolled boat will drift away in water with no direction, with no clear path to go to, similarly, ambasi is water. Similarly, the prajna, when it's lost, you in your life become, is the core concept that has been established in this shloka. The literal meaning, when the senses move among the objects, the mind follows them. And when the mind follows them, the mind gets carried away and it removes the wisdom from that individual. And thereafter, just as the wind carries away a boat on water, his life also becomes. That is the direct meaning of this shloka. Indriyanam hi charatam. He, indeed, the indriyas. That is the emphasis that goes towards there. Just similar, as soon as the sense organs go towards their respective objects of interest. Here, the term he is used to clarify and to establish that it is the duty, the purpose, and the core nature of the indriyas to follow their sense objects, their object of interest. So if there is a form, it is the duty of the eyes to follow it. If there is a sound, it is the duty of the ear to follow it. So like that, for every sense object that you experience, the sensory organs are duty bound to follow it. Do not condemn. Do not try to restrain or hold it. You want to train them to follow the one that you want it to follow when you need it. And it doesn't mean that you will always have the need for it. That is not going to be realistic or practical. So when you need it, when you are into the specific tapasya that you are trying to do, your eyes or your ears trying to follow their own path must be overcome through training. When you are born, you just follow everything. You just continue to see, you just continue to hear, you just continue to grasp things. And your mind is also trained to go wherever the eyes and ears are going. That is the nature of your creation itself. The nature of your creation is also having that intelligence as well as the ability to regulate and control. So you cannot say, oh, it is natural, so we'll let it go. If that is natural, this is also natural. This is also given by the nature. So you are expected to take an initiative to train those indriyas, to take them for your purposes, and then let them be free. So long as your mind is not following, there is no problem. That is what in the next phrase Bhagavan is emphasizing. Yat manaha anuvidhiyate. Anuvidhiyate, Bhagavan is bringing the caution at this level only. Basically, when the mind follows or conforms, gets carried along to what the indriyas are seeing, that the indriyas are following. When the mind falls in line behind the senses, is what the concept that is being stressed here. Then the manaha gets carried away. And how does it get carried away? Vayur navam iva ambasi. The critic is Vayur navam iva. Air boat like in water. Boat with good air in water. The highlight is manaha being behind the indriyas is essential. But if manaha starts following the interests of the indriyas, that is the problem. What is meant by that? Manaha needs to be behind the indriyas for that knowledge that the indriyas are bringing to be acquired. We have told about this. Person is walking straight in front of you in the shopping mall, and you are actually looking at him, but not even registering that your good friend is coming in the front. And he will come back and say, hey man, why are you ignoring me? Then you will realize, actually, no, I was not trying to ignore you. I was thinking something else, kind of a thing, is the way that we respond. So the manaha to be behind the indriyas for them to get that information and register is essential. But for the manaha to follow wherever indriyas are going is the place where the problem is being emphasized. Manaha becoming the guide to indriyas when I need them is vivekaha, is intelligence. And the vairagya is for the indriyas to let go of other things when you, through the manaha, direct the indriyas to focus on something. Because that vairagya comes into picture where the other distractions can be broken. So that vivekam and vairagyam is being stressed again at this place. And the caution is, but when manaha tends to follow the indriyas, it begins to drift uncontrollably. What it is you and your life's purposes, they all start to drift uncontrollably. The way that these words are taken is both is the intellect, the life direction. Water is the world of experience. Wind is equated to the wandering senses, and mind is the connection between them. Fault is not in the boat, or the water or the wind. The problem is uncontrolled mind. Manaha anuvidhiyate. Senses contact object. Mind can either observe or follow. The decision to let the manaha follow the indriyas, or for you to hold the manaha back into some other focus, and that is the place the bhakti comes into place. Bhakti is a nice placeholder for you where your mind can be well wound with a beautiful concept of Bhagavan. The character called Hanuman basically represents this manaha. This mind is a very, very, very powerful concept. It can, in a matter of seconds, it can be landing in the moon. And so not even seconds, within a fraction of a second, it can land in the moon. And the next second, it can be climbing up the Mount Everest. It can think of itself as huge and very powerful, or it can make itself very small. All these are the characteristics of Hanuman, if you read through all the tales around Hanuman. And what keeps him bound? It is devotion to Ram. That devotion plays such an important part in having the mind under control is another thing that we call out in this place. So how to let not the manaha anuvidhiyate? By adopting to bhakti and enabling the manaha to focus on the tapasya whenever it is required. A natural resting place becomes devotion. Natural resting place becomes the feet of the Lord. That is the entire thing that is getting established in this shloka. So remind yourself that the mind is supposed to guide sensory instruments in you. And for that, you can take the guidance from the Buddhi. The Buddhi cannot guide the sensory object. There is a big barrier, which is manaha. So for all your actions that you do, that is very evident with the example that we have seen before. Making a firm decision that I'm not going to shout at my daughter when she is arriving late, but as soon as she steps her feet inside, I shout at her. My buddhi had decided something, but when I acted, it just acted independently. Actually, not independently, in accordance with the way the mind flows. So the mind is supposed to guide the senses, which are the 10, both karmendriyas and jnanendriyas. But it should also be guided by buddhi. So the training that we give to the manaha is to get that capability of following the guidance of the buddhi. The problem area is when the mind becomes the follower of the sensory objects. If we go back to Kathopanishad, in which Yamadharma Raja had equated the Rath for this entire thing here, Vayuhu Navam Iva is the example. He is using the boat as an example here, Bhagavan. And in Kathopanishad, Yamadharma Raja had used a chariot. So in that context, reins are no longer guiding. Instead, the horse becomes the driver of the chariot. If the horse is the driver of the chariot, it will go wherever it likes. It is not going to take you to the destination that you have committed yourself to. Tadasya harati prajnam. This is what we had not included in our analysis so far. Observe the term harati. Bhagavan does not say that the prajna is destroyed. That you lose your prajna is not what Bhagavan is saying. Bhagavan is not saying that the prajna is nashaha, is not getting destroyed. Prajna is carried away. Prajna, or the wisdom, is still there, but it is not accessible to you. It is accessible to the buddhi, but not to you. As in, your prajna becomes dysfunctional. The important qualifier is yathu manaha, limited to only the moments when mind chooses to follow the indriyas. This is an important clarification that we make in our, darshana. The yat manaha is not that manaha is like that. The manaha, when it is not when it is indiscriminately following the indriyas, in those moments, not manaha as a concept itself, right? That, there is a small fight that happens with my friend, and I go back and say, man, Prabhakar is so mean. No, he was mean to me at that point in time. And there are thousands of other times when he has been the best of my friends. I have forgotten all those. I am saying that person is bad. And we are doing it all through in our life. The important thing for us to understand is the manaha when it gets drifted away. The friend when he becomes mean. Not that the friend is mean. And friend can be wrong, man. Why not? Or another individual can be wrong. No problem, so long as we can bring them back. So when the manaha slips, don't condemn yourself or don't condemn the manaha. It is not to be disciplined. It needs to be trained. This is a huge mind shift that we will have to learn from these words of Bhagavan. So just the term yathu manaha is to be correctly understood as the manaha is the same. That manaha, when it gets drifted away, is the poison for us, and then it can be brought back under control. Just having the realization that manaha has slipped will slowly reduce the number of times the manaha slips. You don't even have to put an effort. It is good if you put an effort. What can be done, what might be achieved in 2 years or 20 years, could be achieved in 2 months or 1 year. That can be the shift. But the concept is be aware. Number one. Number two is, if possible, put an effort, which is where the meditation, etc., comes into picture. The senses moving, this is natural. The mind observing, this is maturity. The mind following is bondage. Mind, maybe I should have written this also, to say that if mind is controlling the indriyas when needed, then the mind is truly matured. You are really in the complete path of liberation. Going into the Bhāṣyam, here Acharya puts it as, just as a boat while sailing in water is helplessly driven off course by wind. So swasya visheshu pravarthamanam yad manaha anuvidiyate. So too the mind. If it follows the wandering senses or sense organs, which are getting attracted to their respective objects of perception, the true goal, which is the self-realization, will be lost. The mind becomes absorbed in sense objects and loses its ability to discriminate between the self and the non-self. This should be seen from the point of view of I getting into a definition that the objects that I am seeing is me. In other words, I am not able to divide the anatma from the atma swarupam. That is the literal meaning of what Acharya has said. The way that we should look at it from a bhavartha or the tattvartha is when the manaha follows the indriyas, object of interest, that object of interest becomes your master. You develop a kind of dependency on those objects. And when the dependency on those objects comes into being, that is when it reshapes you from within. The characteristic of the individual undergoes a severe change when that following takes place. And that is why, as a child, you see that everyone is going to the same thing, everyone is learning the same ABCD, but then as they grow, their interests and their outlook of seeing the world changes. It is because the mind has been following the sense objects. And when it is following the sense object, the mind goes wild. It is not controlled. The vivekam is lost. And not to forget, even for the yati, this is true. Despite all the knowledge and tapasya one could have done, unless the senses are restrained, the mind cannot stay centered. Here, it is a little different to what I had expressed in the analysis. The intent was clear to bring about that differentiation to you, saying that when he says the senses are restrained, the way we should look at this is by dividing it properly. If you are going to put senses are restrained, as in, I am not going to let the senses experience their object of interest, then your interpretation of what Acharya has done would be wrong. Acharya's interpretation is pretty sensible when you look into the way that Bhagavan Krishna has expressed. If you put that relationship together, that assimilation aspect of it, then the true meaning will emerge. If you read it as a direct statement, unless the senses are restrained, even Śaṅkarācārya has said that you have to restrain your senses. This is, discussion that I have had on this particular shloka itself, where unless the senses are restrained was wrongly interpreted as we need to control the senses. Yes, we need to control the senses so that the sense can come to our aid to take us to the path that we are supposed to go when we are doing that specific activity. And after that, let the senses be themselves. Because unless the manaha is behind the senses have no influence on you. So, unless the senses are restrained, should either be seen as not allowing the senses to restrain you or to create a dependency in you. Rather, it should be seen as the senses, rather, how can I put it? Unless the senses are restrained, it doesn't mean we are going to stop the senses from doing their job. It doesn't mean the senses are going to be restrained from their nature, from their swabhav. The pravritti that the senses bring are the ones that they are bringing. But if the manaha is not behind the senses, then the influence is zero. Also, if we are able to train the manaha to guide the senses when it is required, that is the maturity, vivekam and vairagyam coming into picture there. So that is the way that we must see it. So I wanted to really call it out to say that, hey, unless the senses are restrained, should be seen in the right light. It can be misunderstood very easily. Just as a boat, while sailing in water, is helplessly driven off course by strong wind, so too the mind, if it follows the wandering senses, it gets pulled away from its true goal, the self-realization. He is very clear from his point of view. The realization of the self is the main guidance that he is taking Bhagavad Gita for. We take it to say that, yes, that should be the eventual goal, but it is not just restricted to self-realization. It is also related equally to the Vyavaharika world, the transactional world. It becomes absorbed in sense objects, loses its ability to discriminate between self and non-self, and causes the destruction or loss of prajna. Even for a seeker, this loss is dangerous unless the senses are restrained. The mind cannot stay centered. And that is the place of argument to say that, hey, look at it. Acharya is not only telling it, he is even re-emphasizing it. So how can you say it this way? And then the discussion is around how it has to be taken from the Vachyartha. Means, the way that we make meaning is defined in three ways. One is called as Vachyartham, means the Vakya, the sentence, as it gives the meaning. Vayur navam iva ambasi, direct meaning. Bhavartam is the expression behind it. What is it that the expression is trying to convey? Right? So that what is it trying to convey becomes the bhavartam. Then tattvartam or lakshyartam. This is the place where the differences comes. The tattvartam is this bhavam leading us towards, you remember the word assimilating the several bits and pieces of information that we get, that towards that assimilation. Where is it that our meaning is? If a person thinks that Allah is the only God, for him, everything will be directed towards that. That is the main point. If in case a person says Shiva is great, then everything is towards that Shiva. That is the mind's way of functioning. And we need to understand that ability to derive or go towards the truth is very important, where the truth and belief system can converge or can have a conflict. Then I feel that Shiva is God, is the absolute truth. And I define Shiva to be one who is sitting in Kailash, etc. Then you have gone into the path of belief. It is good to have that belief, especially as bhakti to guide you. But to define Bhagavan into a small space is a mistake that you are doing. The tattva that we are talking about is the absolute truth, the paramarthika sat. That paramarthika sat is that which is one whole, which means it includes the Atma and Anatma. It includes both the Chaitanyam and Achetanam, the inert as well as the conscious principle put together. This ability to look at the truth is what the maturity is. When Acharya says self-realization, what he means is seeing that ekatva bhavam between Atma and Anatma. The moment you remove that ekatvam, what remains is only the Anatma, not the Atma. Even though you have separated it, and we will see this particular concept being discussed later in Bhagavad Gita as well. That undivided union of wholesomeness is what our tattva, our truth should be. And that is what is the representation of Shiva, Vishnu, Jesus, or God, as Abrahamic faith says, or Allah, whatever the name that you put. It must be a collection of everything. If in case a belief is getting introduced in between, it kills the whole concept of the truth. But belief is essential for us to develop and grow. Unless we believe, we will not be able to go towards that. The objective being set clearly is the main goal that we should develop into ourselves. And that definition you have to establish. And only then that alignment will take place between indriyas, seeing the indriyarthebhyah, the manah, the mind, and the buddhi, and how they align to the tattvartham or the lakshyartham. Herein, Acharya introduces the Shloka number 68. Yatato hyapi iti upanyastasya arthasya anekada upapattim uktva tam cha artham upapadya apasamharati. Referring back to the verse that begins with Yatato hyapi kaunteya, Acharya says, after having explained its meaning through various logical arguments and having established the truth of that point, the teaching is now being concluded in the 68th Shloka. The Shloka goes like this, Tadasya, Shloka number 68. Tasmadasya mahabhaho nigruhitani sarvashah indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratisthitha. The word by word meaning is Tasmad yasya. Tasmad is therefore yasya, whose mahabhaho. Now he is now calling Arjuna as Mahabhaho, one with generous great hands. Nigrihitani, cut off from or curbed from, sarvashah, everything or all over. What? Indriyani indriyarthebhyah. Indriyani indriya arthebhyah. The sensory organs from the objects of their association. Tasya prajna pratishtitha. Tasya, his, prajna, the conscious principle, the intelligence, the chetana, is pratishtita, is considered to be fixed. So basically, complete withdrawal both from the objects and what it gives. Earlier also he had said, right, with the rasaha, it is not just the, withdrawal from the objects, but also from the rasaha. Going into the analysis. Therefore, now this therefore can represent many things. There are several traditions which interpret this to include several things. All that which is said under Sthitapragya so far, which is Shloka number 55 to Shloka number 67. There are some who say that it is all that is said since Shloka 57 to Shloka 67, the upaya and the dangers. I think this is I have written it wrong. All that is said under Sthitapragya is correct. All that is said since Shloka number 11 of the second chapter till the Shloka number 67, which is the entire Atma, Anatma, Karma Yoga, and then Sthitapragya Lakshan. All of this are included within is what some of them say. All that is said since Shloka number 60 to 67 starts from the yatataha yatato hyapi kaunteya, as a warning for those who are in the path of trying to develop that value. Or there are some who take it as a direct reference to the previous shloka, and because one can drift uncontrollably. So from that point of view, it can be taken. So it is up to you how you take it. Bhagwan has said tasmad. So therefore is therefore. How you want to include, what are all the things you want to include is, I will leave it to you. We say the one from 57th shloka defining the therefore as 257 to 259. Restrain yourself has been the key message, like how a turtle withdraws. Kurmongani vasarvashah. So we put that way. Between the 257 to 259, it is restraining. Then 260 is that the senses are very powerful. Even for those who are trying to restrain, the sense organs can overpower you. In the 262 to 263, the downfall, and 264 to 265 is restoration. 266, no integration and no sukham. And 267, mind follows the senses. Therefore, so given with this understanding of the process, the therefore will be a reference. The reference to Mahabhaho, the one with mighty arms, is a reminder to Arjuna that, hey Arjuna, you are powerful. Now apply that strength internally. You have expressed and you have established it externally as an absolute warrior. Now try to apply the same strength internally inside you. So he says you can do it. And to give that assertiveness, he has called him Mahabhaho. Then Sarvashah Nigrihitani. Sarvashah represents completely in all ways from all sides, dictionary meanings. After establishing why, as well as referring to Arjuna indicating you are capable, which is the same for each of you who are listening to this, Nigrihitani, the root is griha. The contextual meaning is brought under control. The upasarga, ni, indicates the downward, into, inward, right, firmly, nishchitam. That is something that we have very often used. Fully, nishesham, right, under control, niyatam. Within the limits, right, niyata parimane, basically within a specific set of defined rules. So for all these things, the ni as a prefix is used. Therefore, it represents as a direct advice that completely restrained in every way. So what is represented or what is meant by completely restrained in every way? I can put on a what do you say, sound noise cancellation headset, and I can put a like Gandhari, close my eyes, right? I don't know how to close the nose because that is going to be very difficult. I need to breathe too. Maybe apply some filter or something. No, that is not the way that it is. So we need to understand what is being restrained. So indriyani, indriya arthebhyah, senses from their objects. Bhagavan is not saying remove the objects. It is not possible. If you want, we can go back to Manisha Panchakam, wherein Acharyas being questioned, what do you want to remove? Right. So that is an object. Just like an energy can neither be destroyed nor created, it is only transformation possible. The same thing is applicable to matter also. So removing the objects, it is not possible. The indication is withdraw your dependence on the objects. This does not mean suppression. This does not mean violently denying it, which is not wrong. Okay, there are tapasyas where you do make a violent denial, and it is a voluntary action towards a specific purpose. That is when it becomes a tapasya. If not, it doesn't. In general, it doesn't mean suppression or violent denial. It means that I have no uncontrolled movement. Being able to, the movement can happen where the eyes moving around, you cannot stop it. Try it out. You cannot stop it. And even for the most accomplished people, the eyes will have to be eyes. They are independent. So they have to be. No uncontrolled movement means the mind is not following that which the eyes are identifying. No dependence of senses from buddhi. That is why in the Panchakosha Vivekaha, we speak Annamaya Kosham, then Pranamaya Kosham, Manomaya Kosham, and then only Vijnanamaya Kosham. That is another thing that we have to keep in mind. Tasya prajna pratishtitha. For that person, wisdom becomes stable, as in his wisdom does not oscillate. If mind follows senses, prajna is carried away. If senses are governed, prajna is established. Now contemplate the difference between samsara, which is bondage, and moksha, liberation, freedom. What is the difference? As to who is leading it. If the order is buddhi leading the manaha, leading the indriyas, you are Sthitapragya. If indriyas are leading the manaha and manaha has the absolute control with buddhi not having any influence on the manaha, that is the samsara. And what we are trying to achieve is to overcome this. Again, in our darshana, we look at it from a specific nuance. If you look at Bhagavan's words, he has consistently used tasya prajna pratishtitha. In between, he introduced paryavatishtate, and again here it is pratishtitha. Right? So if you look at it, it is 57, 58 prajna pratishtitha, 61 prajna pratishtitha. Then in 65, he introduces buddhihi paryavatishtate. And in the 68th shloka, in this shloka, he is using prajna pratishtita. We give a special attention to such observations. This observation is going to be like this. The complete picture is we learn. This is Shravanam, Mananam, Samskaram, and the world, the experiences that you make, and by examining the world, pariksha lokan. Right? So we do give that particular word an importance. It comes in Kathopanishad, pariksha lokan karmachitan brahmano nirvedamayat. You exploring and examining the world is also a process of learning. The samskara that your family has injected in you since your birth is also your learning. The Shravanam and Mananam that we are going through right now is also your learning. Typically, Mananam is kept as an individual exercise, and Shravanam is seen as the one when you go to an Acharya to learn. But in our system of approach, in our darshana, we put Shravanam and Mananam in a guru guided area. But after that, the Mananam will also shift into independent or individual driven analysis. When we say Shravana and Manana in this box of learning, what we mean is a Shravanam which is inducive enough for additional contemplation. We do so much of analysis not because you cannot do it, but because it provides the seed for people with limited ability to analyze at this stage to boost their ability to analyze. That is why when you complete this Bhagavad Gita and if you go back to work, I think you will become the best analyst. You will be able to see through so many things. Very naturally, it will come into you. And that is why in this tradition of teaching, we are trying to adopt a lot of contemplative dialogues, which will enable a person to expand their ability to contemplate in themselves. When you do this particular way of learning, what you gain is an informational knowledge. There are barriers which are very natural in our life, which comes in your way, several kinds. We can talk about the barriers as a separate chapter itself. But for now, we just need to know that there are barriers, raga dvesham, that we have from inside, natural inclination, which we call as vasanas, right, that you carry from your own previous birth, are the ones that I have mentioned here. But the barriers are the ones which are going to disturb you. Then it requires an effort and a devotion. When you put this effort and the devotion, that is when you get the prasad. If you don't put that effort, and from our recommendation point of view, a devotion, that prasad cannot be obtained. The way that we say it is, if you only put the effort, you will get halwa. If you put effort with devotion, you will get halwa as a prasad. That is the big difference. It is very much possible. But when you eat the halwa, it can only strengthen your ego. When you eat the prasad, it dilutes your ego and allows the merger. That is the subtle clarification between only putting the effort and effort with devotion. When you do this, your prajna will become sthitaha. At this space, I will take a small break. We will get back from this observation in our next class and continue this journey. This is a very interesting and an important area for us to contemplate and develop. So, taking a break here, and we will today start with Ramani Bhabi and Shrikant. Bhaiya ji.
Guruji, namaskar.
Namaskar.
We apologize we were not able to attend last week. We
Oh,
had
no,
some
no.
friends who visited us and they were just trying to just come and visit us, and we just couldn't get out of that situation because they were in our home. So we apologize we couldn't join, but
It is
we were able
important.
to look at the recording. So that was very helpful. Coming to today, I just wanted to inform you, Guruji, that today we were at Emory University. Emory had actually bestowed on Shreya what they call as the Heart of Emory Award. It is something for that they usually award for people who've given back to the community, especially the student community and the Atlanta-based region. So we were very proud of her. There was a standing ovation for her contributions. Uh, Obviously, we missed Shreya quite a bit, but it was a proud moment for us to see how our little daughter has contributed and how she was received by all her friends and staff and faculty. So I just wanted to share that with you. And I don't necessarily have any questions for today. I don't think Ramni does too. But again, as you were closing the 68th sloka, the effort and devotion that you talk about, definitely intriguing. And I want to continue listening to you on how we can take that path to hopefully achieve the prasad, as you were saying, the halwa, and enjoy that as well, right? So looking forward to the next sessions.
Absolutely. Thank you. And definitely, I'll have Shreya in my prayers tomorrow. And first and foremost thing is, I would like to express my gratitude and thankfulness for her to have contributed with so much of value to the society that, a university is recognizing her contributions. I'm sure she was a great soul. We'll be missing her, but at the same time, I'm feeling very blessed that somehow I have been blessed with the connection with such a noble soul. And I'm sure you are very lucky to have had one of the best connections of even
Yeah,
raising them, raising the child as well as experiencing the greatness that starts emanating from them.
we have
Really proud
definitely feel
moment.
blessed, Guruji. And again, thanks to your support, we are trying to find meaning in the purpose of why all of this might have happened. And I keep telling Ramni that eventually one day we will go and meet her, hopefully soon, uh, because she left us on Shivaratri, and she's definitely with the Lord. We feel that. And with again, hopefully, we are able to progress and elevate ourselves in our journeys, respective journeys, and eventually get to see her. So, looking forward to that as well.
Absolutely. And actually, the whole point is she's now testing you to say how well you are able to hold and take it further. The value of
Yeah,
that the university
absolutely,
showed.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thank you,
So,
Guruji.
yeah, my prayers will be always there with you. Thank you. Yeah.
But then you also mentioned the difference between Vivekam and Vairagyam, and I couldn't
No,
connect
I had put the two
Vairagyam.
things together, Vivekam and Vairagya. I was not trying to differentiate between the
Okay.
two. It is an emergence of both Vivek and Vairagya coming together.
Okay.
The Vivekam is developing that ability, right? Developing the right way of looking at it. And Vairagya is uh, basically prevention of, or the prevention of the influences that the others can have into you. The disturbance removal or the barriers removal. That is going to be the place where the Vairagya comes into picture. Buddhi following the Indriyas is wrong. I did not say that. I said the best will be where Buddhi becomes the guide. As in, whatever you have learned in your intellect and you have been able to determine between right and wrong, where the right stands out, and that becomes the guiding factor for the manaha, and the manaha is going to drive the indriyas when required. So that is the kind of relation.
Yes.
It is not following the indriyas, rather it is leading the indriyas is the correct word I would use.
Yeah. That's how actually you said.
Yeah.
But I was not sure. You were saying Vivekam and Vairagyam, so I thought that maybe you were trying to differentiate between Vairagyam and Vivekam. And So I kind of got lost.
Yeah, no. I was not trying to separate them out.
Okay.
If in case we need to do that, we have a different text altogether from Śaṅkarācārya. Here I was trying to bundle it together for implying the meaning established here. It was not to define what is Vivekam or differentiate between Vivekam and Vairagya.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Good one. We will take a leave here and we will connect again in our next week's class. Hari Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.